This week we've been talking all about hope and identity. Today we're talking about fear and how we can fight fear. My good friend Justin Benedict is coming to us all the way from Costa Rica. Fun fact about Justin, he used to be a lead singer for a Christian rock band. Today is the last day to get in on these daily giveaways to win some starbs or a new t-shirt and enter to win the grand prize, the Mavic Mini drone. So don't forget to look for the giveaway clues and send us a DM or shoot us a text at the end. All you guys gotta do is watch some videos and you get to win some really cool prizes.
Hi, I'm Justin Benedict, a missionary to Central America, coming to you from the Nicoya Peninsula, deep in the isolated peninsula of Costa Rica. And today I would like to take an opportunity to speak to you about fear, which is something that we know very well. I live here with my family. I have 9 kids. Yes, that sounds crazy already. Some of you are already afraid. But we moved here because of something that we believed in, and that is to move forward and overcome those things in our life that are obstacles. And sometimes it takes overcoming those things to make an impact in life to accomplish what you feel led to accomplish. So today, as we look at fear, we're going to look at 4 points. We're going to look at what is fear. That's number 1. Number 2, identifying your fear. Number 3, acknowledging your fear. And number 4 is overcoming your fear. So already you've spoke about hope and identity. And if you don't have either of those, right away that could lead to fear, because if you don't have something to hope for, then you're just wandering out there. Same thing with identity. If you don't have identity and knowing who you are, which is a struggle. Sometimes we're all searching for who we are, what we're supposed to do, all those things. But you know what? It's going to be okay. It's going to all come together. I was the same way. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I actually didn't know what I was going to do with college. When I was studying in college, I didn't know what exactly I wanted to study. But now I'm on the greatest adventure of my life because I have not allowed fear to control my life. I was someone who actually didn't even like to be in front of people. So to stand here and do this video is even a challenge for me, and I'm actually kind of afraid. But I will overcome it because I want to have this opportunity to hang out with you and speak about these things. So first thing I would like to do is just share about how we came to Costa Rica. So the first thing to understand is I didn't always live this kind of life. I was in a Christian rock band, and we traveled internationally playing with most of the Christian international rock bands today. I had the opportunity to stand in front of 70,000 people and go into deep lockdown prisons, to stand face to face with murderers and play music for them. And they're like, why would you do this? And it was because I cared about other people and other people's lives. I wanted to see other people who, just because their path has led to somewhere super difficult, and it may have landed them somewhere that they don't want to be, them to know that there are people that care about them. And you see, in our lives, when we look outside of ourselves and we go, you know what, I can go above and beyond what I think I can do. That's what the Marines and Army and everyone that is trained to control their mind to be able to accomplish what they need to accomplish to have this success has to do. And so today, the only reason that we are here in Costa Rica is because we were willing to overcome the fear. When we knew that we are called to be missionaries, we were believing that that is where we were being led, that we said, you know what, I'm willing to do it, but it's going to require us to sell everything. Selling everything, that's not easy. Again, another fear, to be without. But you know what? We're like, you know what? There's more to this life. And so we were willing, imagine this, to put everything we own out in front of our house. Can you imagine putting everything you own? Picture your family, your couches, your beds, everything right in front of your house. And then going, okay, hopefully all this sells quickly. Do you know what? After 3 hours, I put some estate sales out. 3 hours. There were so many people that everything sold. Now that sounds like a fairy tale, but it is the truth. We believed wholeheartedly, we didn't let fear control us, and we moved on to do what we felt that we were supposed to do. Now, I had never been to Central America, but I had traveled to many other countries. And in doing this, I began to see the great need. And so we knew that this is where we are supposed to go and what we are supposed to do. So we made that step. We sold everything. We moved to this country, Costa Rica, not speaking any Spanish, but we did it because we wanted to reach outside of ourselves to make an impact. And now we've seen thousands of lives impacted. Now, if we were to let fear control our lives, we wouldn't accomplish anything. In the same way in your life, if you let fear control your life, you won't accomplish anything. And it becomes more and more difficult, especially if it's a fear that holds on and it begins to control your mind and everything else about you. So today, we're going to focus on those 4 points. What is fear? Again, number 2, identifying your fear. 3, acknowledge your fear. And 4, overcoming your fear. So number 1, we're going to look at first. What is fear? So other than if there's a giant bear coming out of the woods, you going this way. Now that's a fear that will save your life. But being afraid of someone or something because of the negative effect it may have on you. That's what fear is. You see, it's your body's emotional response to fear that helps you in one way but can come against you in another. Especially when you let fear control your mind and then it begins to control your actions and your daily routines. So there's good fear and bad fear. Now bad, you're going to make an irrational response to something that happens, all right? The good is when you react quickly. So if something's going to fall and all of a sudden it scares you and you jump out of the way, that was your body's response. But it's when we allow fear to control everything we do in our life, it begins to overtake us. And it begins to take away all that hope. And we begin to forget who we are and continue to question and never find the right answers. Now, some of the greatest fears people have are the fear of the future, loneliness, being alone, failure, death, sickness, like what everyone's going through right now, and also criticism. And there's many others. And all of those fears impact people differently depending on what their life journey has been like. So as we continue on to discuss fear, I want you to keep in mind that this doesn't have to control your life. Right now you're sitting there and you're studying this and you're like, man, this is boring. I hope that I'm helping you feel a little more free here as I'm in the middle of nowhere here in Costa Rica. We actually have mountain lions and all kinds of wild animals around here, pumas. And, every day I have to face these different types of challenges, snakes and all kinds of crazy insects. But it is so worth it to walk forward in the freedom knowing that I don't have to let it control my life. So that leads us to point number 2, identifying your fear. So super important that yes, we know fear exists, but can you identify it in your own life? Maybe it's controlling you and you don't even know it. So there's the obvious fear of things that you know you don't like. And so you're like, that's obviously not something that I want in my life. So those are the obvious fears, the things that you're aware of. You even state it to other people. I'm afraid of an earthquake. I'm afraid of a tidal wave coming when I'm in the ocean. Those are all those types of fears. The second one is hidden fears. So a hidden fear is something that you're afraid of, but you don't even really realize it, but it might impact the way you talk to others. Like maybe it's something that you criticize yourself within your mind, or you realize that the reason you don't like to be in front of people is you're worried about what they think, right? Those are fears. Now, if you let those things control you too much, you become a loner, right? You just begin to push people away, if you allow all of those things to control you, it impacts your life in a negative way. Now, not to call anybody a loner, but I'm telling you, every person here, because you're not alone, has these fears in their lives. And so, for instance, an example, because I have so many stories in the life that we live. Speaking of snakes, one night I was sleeping in the house that we live in, very open at the top. My wife and I have about this much space on the wall above our bed in our room. We have like iguanas crawling over the wall, right under our bed. And you just kind of get used to it. Like just crazy stuff, like iguanas this big. And from snakes to rats to mice, all kinds of things, insects. And I fall asleep and my wife wakes me up and I'm like, what is it? She's like, I don't know why. I have like a warning. I'm like, a warning? She's like, yeah, will you go look in the bathroom? And I'm thinking, what could possibly be in the bathroom? Anything? Okay, so I go and I get a flashlight and I go down the hall to the bathroom. And I shine the light in there, nothing. Now there's no glass in the windows of this house. So like it's open to outside. We're pretty much sleeping outside. So I'm shining the light in there, nothing. And all of a sudden, I see a shadow on the wall and it's moving like this. It's the tail of a snake. So I'm like, oh no. I am from Washington State, from the west side, so like a gardener snake scares me. So I'm like, what kind of snake is this? So I'm trying to figure this out. I go get a chair and I get up and I look over the top of the wall and here's the head of the snake. It's a boa constrictor. And it's got its head right up like this looking at me as soon as I'd look up, and then it would go back down. So I got a machete and I'm like, I'm either gonna run out of this house and get my family out or I'm gonna face this. And so I got a machete and I was like, oh man, I gotta do this fast. And I lunged into the room off that chair and swung and I chopped its head off. And it just uncoiled and boom, hit the floor. Now that is fear right in your face. Now more of a hidden fear is I didn't realize that I'm actually kind of afraid of bats. One night I was sleeping and I was just like, I am so thankful for this ceiling fan. This house has nothing, but it has a ceiling fan. And just as I'm about to fall asleep, I hear this, whoa, and I feel, oof, something landed on me. It hit me. And I was thinking to myself, did something just hit me? It had to. But the problem was where it hit me. So I reached down and there's a furry thing sitting on the crotch of my shorts. So I'm like, ah! And I threw it across the room. It was a bat. It hit the ceiling fan and crashed on me. Now that scared me. I don't want anything crawling on me, let alone a furry bat, and especially there. So after that, I kind of put some mosquito netting over our bed because I was like, I'm not gonna have that happen again. So you see, there are all kinds of fears, and the hidden fears sometimes come in the smallest things, but it's important that we identify those things so that we can deal with them and not allow them to control our life. So that leads to point 3. That would be to acknowledge your fear. So we need to be able to accept that there is a fear that we have, recognize that we have that fear, and see the fear and face it, face to face. You know what? I don't like this, but I'm not gonna run anymore. I'm not gonna, stand here and let it control my life. And so how do I respond? Well, short term, you're like, okay, when this one fear comes at me, I'm not gonna run anymore. Or when I face these challenges, I'm just gonna go through it. And I'm gonna maybe do it with my friends, however I'm gonna accomplish it. Sorry, I had a bug go right in my throat. Like I said, this is real and raw. Long term, it's like making choices that, you know what, I know I have a fear of heights, or I have a fear of being in front of people, or I have a fear of talking to people, or I have a fear of new things, or loneliness. So I'm gonna make a choice to either not allow my life to walk in that direction, to bring the fear, or I am gonna challenge myself to move forward through it all. And in that, we all face it in different ways, but we have to face it. We have to accept it and go, that is my fear. And in pride, we can't just accept it and go, I don't want to let anybody know. And that's what we personally want to do. But we have to humble ourselves and accept that we need to make that change in our life. Now, in this journey, that has taken us all over Central America. We have gone through many different things. I've almost been robbed. One story, we were in Nicaragua, went deep into Nicaragua, into the rural parts where most people don't even know there's towns. And we were traveling at night, which is not the best idea. But sometimes through circumstances, you got to do things. Now, I could just live in fear and just go like, you know what, I'm going to go hide somewhere, but you know what, I got to find somewhere to sleep. I don't know these people. There's another fear. Am I willing to trust these people? But we were driving down the road and we're going through these areas. Now, some of you may have heard of the Sandinistas. It's a group of the guerrillas in Nicaragua that were a part of the war. And that group, whether many believe it or not, still exists, and they're in the most rural Caribbean side of Nicaragua. So we're driving in those areas, and I had been warned before of what to look for. They dress like military, but they are not military. And they're out to kill, rob, rape, and do many other bad things. And so these guys carry some serious weapons. And that night we were driving, and I saw up ahead, it's a roadblock. I'm like looking, there's like no other way to go. So this road is in the middle of nowhere. The last town we saw was like 3 hours back. We're in the middle of nowhere. There's jungle on both sides. We're traveling along. The headlights are facing us. These are big army trucks. They're all facing us, and there's no way I can see to get around them. The road is blocked. So as I'm coming up, I'm looking around, and my family's like, this is serious. And we're coming up, and I got to make a choice what I'm going to do. And as I'm approaching, all of a sudden this boldness comes over me. I'm like, you know what? I don't know what's going to happen, but because of this boldness that is within me, I'm going to believe in this, and I'm going to go for it. So I put the pedal all the way to the floor, and I just started to go. We were in a van, a 15-passenger van, a Toyota, and this thing's just going as fast as we can. As we're approaching, I can see the guys. They got all the automatic weapons, and they're standing in the middle of the road in their headlights. And we're completely blinded. At the last second, I was thinking, are we gonna ram them? I just think, you know what? I hear, let's turn a little bit to the left. So I'm like, whoa! I steer to the left, up an embankment with the van, which made no sense how we did it, and then back down into the road. And all of them were in such shock. They're just like, what just happened? And we come back onto the road, and because there was such a shock for them, they didn't know how to react. They could have shot at us, but you know what? We faced the fear and we went through it. And that's to the extreme. But if we just let fear control us, I may not even be standing here able to speak to you. And so that is the thing. In your life, you have to face those fears, which leads to the fourth one, overcoming your fear. So we have to, in order to overcome fear, we really have to, first of all, like I said, face it, but then we have to be willing to take those steps forward as we humble ourselves. Does being afraid mean that that's something that's going to really help us in our life? Not really. Only in those quick reacting moments when adrenaline kicks in and we run. But the other moments, it's not really going to help us. So what good does it do to be afraid and running around in fear when we can say, you know what, I'm going to change my routine. I'm going to change the way I think of things a little at a time. And it comes with the help of others. So really, you can't do it on your own, but you have to be willing to believe that you can do it. Like things like suicide or giving up and depression, that's not the answer. That only leads to death. That doesn't help anyone. It hurts more people than you know. And so in that, if you want to be on an adventure where you know that life is not always going to be the best, but you know what? I'm going to take it as it is. That is the life that you can overcome anything with, especially if you trust others and you believe in yourself, because every person has been created for a purpose. Every person has a purpose. Everybody's different and unique, but every purpose that is in every person is to accomplish something. Some of the most successful people were the people who maybe went through childhood of people thinking, oh, they're strange, or they're alone all the time, isolated, they have no talents. Some of those people impacted the most lives, and some of the people with the greatest talents ended up impacting less lives. So that's why it's so important to not allow that to control your life, but to put your trust in other people and to be willing to move forward and getting your help from others. And in that, I have one final story I would like to share. Also, in another country in Central America, I went and traveled 8 hours on dirt roads into the middle of nowhere where I was told no missionary had ever driven. They only fly in because it's kind of crazy, it's dangerous. I went with just me and another translator that I had because we came without Spanish. Still had to rely on a translator, but we're working through it. Now I'm speaking Spanish. I could be afraid of communication, but again, another thing I've overcome. So I'm traveling these 8 hours on this dirt road into the middle of nowhere, and I get to this town called Ciuna. This town is again controlled by Sandinistas, and they actually have their own government and their own system. In this area, it is super rural, small town, super dangerous. Saw people get robbed right in front of me many times, having to constantly be cautious. But our main purpose in going there was to reach to this last indigenous group that is isolated, called the Mosquito tribe. And that's not mosquito, it's mosquito. And so to go to this tribe was something that we were being asked to help, but we had no idea. It was the unknown. So sometimes the unknown can bring fear in our lives, but that wasn't the idea. The idea was I knew that people's lives could be impacted in this if I can bring some kind of help or resources to these people. So after hiking for many hours following this indigenous guy, we crossed 13 rivers, almost lost the translator down one of the rivers, get to this town. It was like something you'd see in a movie. You come out of these hills of this jungle into this huge valley with a bunch of huts. And we arrive and everyone scatters into their huts. I'm like, this isn't normal. I've been to many indigenous places. Not normal. Something's up. So we go in and we find one lady that would speak to us in one of the huts. And she said, you're not welcome here. Our leader is not here. If he was here, you would die right now. And so we're like, this is not good. And they're not going to listen to anything that we have to say. Plus, they're not open for help. They're like, we've got everything figured out. So we're like, okay, what do we do? So we get in this canoe that was as narrow as my hips. It was like a carved out log. Go up this next river, she led us. And we get out and we found the tribe and the people that were needing the help. And because we went there, we were continually able to not only encourage those people, but to help them with some different resources. And they were like, finally, someone has come. Now, if we walked and in this journey and went, you know what, fear is the control of my life, I would have never been able to have that experience or deal with that. But because I was willing to move forward and say, I have hope, I have an identity because I am a person different than everybody else, but I'm a person with purpose. And so that is what I want to encourage you to do, to keep going, don't give up, because you don't know what the next day is going to look like, what the next year is going to look like. And the greatest thing to remember is those who struggle the most come out the strongest. Because you go through those difficult things, the next time you come into something, man, you can help others who are going through it, but also you're like, I'm stronger, I've been through this, I know this routine, and you continue to move on. So as this life throws challenges at you, I want to encourage you to just keep going. Don't give up. Don't give up. There's more. There is so much hope that every person has if we're willing just to believe that we can do it and move forward. So don't give up. All the way from Costa Rica, thank you so much for allowing me to spend this time with you. Sorry for all the little blurps and things. I ate a couple bugs during the video, but it was all worth it. And I want to see you guys live a life without fear. So have a great day.
Thank you.
you.